My guest today is Drew Hanson, and Drew worked with me on WNCI. I was there all through the 90s, and Drew was there for most of that time. Drew was the first person I knew who had a blog. So like in the early days of the internet, Drew actually had his own blog, and he'd put like these very personal journal entries up along with photos. And I was always blown away at how honest he was and how he would show the good and the bad and the ugly and the pain that he was going through, and sometimes the not so appealing side of himself. And I was always really impressed with that, and always a little bit astonished that he did that. So I'm just kind of curious to see what he has to say about that. So we'll talk a little radio, a little time. We'll relive our glory days like guys do. About working together at WNCI. The other thing I want to say about Drew is that he's a guy who has a lot of drive and ambition, and he's kind of a dreamer and a performer, and I relate to him in a lot of ways as far as his career and his life goes. So we'll talk to Drew, and then we're going to wrap up with Mark Dantzer's Block Party, which is 5 songs to get you fired up. 5 songs for getting fired up. And I've gotten into the habit of going out on Facebook and asking for suggestions, and I appreciate that. So it's not like kind of a podcast version of taking requests. Okay, where does that take me to? Oh, I want to share a couple comments, and please keep those coming because they mean a lot and they're helpful. Val commented on the Julie Wilkes show, and she said, I enjoyed the show today. Julie makes me feel calm just listening to her pleasant voice. And she also says she was listening to the music that we played, and she heard the song Thank You for Being a Friend, and she wonders why she can remember all the words to that song, but she can't remember where she put her car keys. And I can relate to that too. So thanks for that. We got a post from Barb, or a comment from Barb that says, catching up on your podcast. You sound great. I love the format. Don't take the concierge job. Believe me, having your own businesses is far more rewarding in the long run than punching the clock. That's easy for me to say. I don't have a family, etc. But I believe in you and your talent, and wish you nothing but the best. And loved your interview with Nicole. So thank you. Okay, we've got a show. I've got a lot of stuff I want to get to with Drew Hanson, so let's talk to Drew Hanson. I'm not quite sure how to ease into this. It's not radio; it's a podcast. So
that's beautiful.
What's up, Drew Hanson? In my dining room.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful that it's not radio.
Nice to see you.
It's good to see you, man. I don't think we've ever sat down in this environment. I put a thing on Facebook. That we had never actually sat in. I don't think we even had a beer together ever. And
I don't think so.
And I brought you a present from Chicago.
Yeah.
A bottle of Jameson.
Yes.
That's I didn't even know what Jameson was until I moved there.
Wow. You found out. You learned.
I found out the hard way.
So we did work together at WNCI.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to put that in the era in my head. I know I was there. I left in 98. You came after me and then stayed longer. What was
No, I was there. I started there when I was 19 years old.
I remember you were young.
I was really young, and you were afternoons.
Yeah.
And the best that I can remember of us ever, because I never worked full time there until you were gone. The best I can remember was our Sunday chats, because I did the Sunday night show.
Yeah.
And you did Sunday afternoon, because every full-timer had to do that one weekend shift.
Right.
And yours was the Sunday 3 to 7.
That's
and
right.
I was on at 7.
Yeah. So you came to work there like a year out of high school.
Yeah.
And
I was on the radio when I was in high school. I was David Silver on 90210. That's an old reference, I know, but
David
that was
Silver.
Brian Austin, who's now married to Megan Fox, so that's not a bad reference altogether.
Oh, is that? I don't even know the
Brian
name.
Austin Green.
Well, I know that name.
He was David Silver.
Okay.
And he was the high school radio DJ that was.
Okay. See, now we're showing, like, that was the thing.
We're showing our age.
Well, and we're showing the difference in our age, because when we worked at WNCI, there was like a younger crew, which was Drew and Fish and Chris Davis a little bit. And then there were like the older guys like me, who I was already married, Dave Kalin. And you guys I used to watch because Drew has like 400 ex-girlfriends, and I meet them to this day.
Really?
Yeah. No. I mean, like
I think they're exaggerating the girlfriend part.
I believe that's a conservative.
Probably exaggerating.
That's a conservative estimate. When people meet me and I introduce myself or get introduced as Mark Dantzer, this has happened more times than I can count. People will say, "Oh, I dated Drew Hanson," or my sister was Drew Hanson's girlfriend for a while, or something.
It's awkward.
Scores of them.
And now in the social media world that we're in, the Throwback Thursday thing, and which I've thrown a few old pictures of you and me up there on Throwback Thursday.
Yeah.
But now, last week, this girl threw a Throwback Thursday picture up, and it was her at her junior high dance, and she had braces and she was awkward, and I would later date this girl. And who was DJing in the background?
Was I?
Me.
You. Oh, shoot.
I would later date this girl. She was like 20, 21 when I dated her, and I'm DJing, and she's awkward with braces and just not at all in her blossoming phase. And I'm DJing her dance in the background.
It was a little creepy.
It's creepy as hell. Oh my God.
Well, so going back to being 19 and then getting to work on WNCI, what I remember about you is that you were like really ambitious, and you really, like, I just remember you came in and you wanted your shift to be great. You wanted to do things, you wanted to, like, you were prepped to the max. Like, you were really creative. And I just remember, like, you were serious.
I miss that kid. You're doing a podcast now. You're the same person. You had that same,
Well, that may be why I noticed that.
Well, yeah, of course, everybody's a mirror. You had that in you. I mean,
yeah.
I remember listening to you, the best, most organic stuff that you would do on Afternoon Drive, and you didn't have much time to do it because we were held under that Dave Robbins watch.
Right.
Of if you don't do it within 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Or you don't do it wherever.
Right.
And the good thing about Afternoon Drive for you was, like, you had that little traffic break.
Right.
Where you had that bed. You didn't have a 15-second talk up. You didn't have it, and you had that thing. And my oldest daughter, Heather, my oldest daughter, and then you could fit these stories, and people ate that up.
That's awesome.
That was the thing that made you. It was just this, like you just told me, before we started the podcast, your kid's 12 now, your boy.
Yeah.
I remember when we were at 97.1 and that kid was born.
Yeah, that's right.
We're old, man. We're old. What the hell happened?
That's killer that you mentioned that, because that was my favorite part of that show.
Well, that's what made you a morning guy.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's what made you a morning guy, is that you had that charisma, that you stole those minutes away from the 15-second terrestrial radio that you were allowed to do, and then you stole the minute and a half or whatever. And I spent my entire career trying to steal those little bits of time, and they become golden to you.
Yeah. So all right. So that brings me back around to, I mean, I think I did recognize that in you, and we were both, do, like, they call them liner jocks, liner DJs, guys who just go in and they read the pre-written statements,
open with the calls, close with the calls.
Follow the rules. And I just feel like you were one of the people, and I was too. We wanted to put our own stamp on things, not to be self-absorbed or narcissistic. It's just there was something was in us driven to do that.
Yeah.
So, like, I just think from day one, I know you had all these, all these ideas and all these dreams and all these plans, and you've gone out and gone after some of them, and I want to talk about some of that stuff.
Right.
I mean, I really want to kind of like walk through your story, and I do want to start with you growing up in Central Ohio and ending up on the radio when you were still a teenager. I never got to do that. I never got to work in my hometown, and what was that like? Everybody you grew up with could hear you on the radio. That was a pretty big deal.
It wasn't because I wasn't a popular kid. I was not at all. I mean, I was a dork in school. I was a bullied kid. When I look at all these anti-bully campaigns and stuff like that now, I just go, come on, man. Like, bullying really made me who I was, because F you. I mean, I
never knew that.
Oh, I was a very bullied kid. It's a lot of my anger now is that I was a really bullied kid. And I'm like, I can have 15 people that I can complain about being a bully to, or I can have a 175,000 watt radio station and just completely create an entire identity that has nothing to do with, I mean, you know, do we have a little bit of stage names? Maybe. I mean, is our life a little bit exaggerated? Probably. I mean, that's allowed in that environment. We were allowed when we cracked that mic. I mean, you know, we had bosses to answer to. We had terrestrial radio rules, 15 seconds, be in and out, open with the calls, close with the calls, and then somehow tell a story. But
be great in 6.5 seconds.
Be great in 6.5 seconds. Exactly. Sell the music. You're not the star. All that stuff that is now just, it's so sad. It's kind of over. It's really over.
Yeah, and I didn't want this to be about, you know, Drew and Mark are going to rip on everything that's wrong with radio.
And I don't want that to be that either.
But I do think that a lot of people are going to tune in because they're like, oh, you know, Mark is going to talk to Drew, and I grew up listening to them on WNCI, and I do think people want to know what it was like behind the scenes, you know, because radio does create that whole theater of the mind, and
that's
you know,
what I did with the Jameson. I just created theater of the mind that we both did a shot.
All right, so Drew gets on the air in his hometown station. He's like 19. You worked weekends. They gave you the night show. Eventually, you got the night show.
I wouldn't have got that night show if you didn't quit.
Yeah,
if you didn't quit that radio station, I would have never got that night show.
I was going to quit every year, and it wasn't because I hated it, but every year I was going to do my thing, which was at the time I wanted to have this alt country radio show all over the United States. And so I jumped over to a country station and followed our boss over to K95 to do mornings. Chris Davis moved up to my shift, and you got the night show.
I would have never gotten that if that didn't happen.
There you go.
And that was the lowest, probably before. This is not a rub on you, but that was the lowest point in my life if you had not left that radio station. Because they started screwing with Sunday Night 90s. When we got bought by Clear Channel, they started, and Dave Robbins always, and John Dimmick let me, and Todd Shannon even to an extent, let me do whatever I wanted with that show.
Okay, those were the program directors.
Those were program directors of WNCI, and that was literally in order.
And it was a cool show. It was different than anything else on the radio, and and so they gave you freedom.
But I had to earn that. Yeah. I didn't get that immediately. They held me by a pretty tight leash for a while, and the format of the show was the top 4 songs in the country every hour, and then you go into a commercial break, and then you come out with a number 1 request. Well, if the number 1 request is the number 1 song in the country also, you just played the same song.
I remember.
Going into a commercial break, into coming out of it.
Yeah.
And then you played it again in 20 minutes. Yeah. Going into the next commercial break. I thought it was insane. And the phoners on it were like, are you guys screwed up or something? Is your computer messed up, or is your phone? No, it just so happens this is the number 1 song in the country and also the number 1 request. Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On, played in 1997, and this has, to this day, stands as a radio record. That song played 14 times within a span of 5 hours. 14. It was the number 1 song in the country, so it played 5 hours, and then it was the number 1 request champion, so it played twice an hour too.
Oh, man.
14 times in 5 hours. I think I personally destroyed her career because no song in the, I mean, I love a lot of records now, but no song in the world survives 14 times.
Well, and this goes to show that what we were told, DJs, I became a DJ because I thought DJs picked their own songs. That was the main draw to being in radio, and I found out right away that you don't.
What's funny is I went back to NCI twice this year. McCoy's a great program director. I love him, and he's the guy. He's the first thing he did when he got hired back at NCI. He goes, "I understand we did wrong by you. We want to bring you back." I don't want to slam anybody, but there was some bad decisions made, and then they brought me back, and I did I did a year there in 2005 to 2006, and then I quit, left on my own terms, and then
I remember that. That's right. Yeah.
This year I wanted to go back and do it again just for S&Gs.
Right.
And McCoy's like, hey, I'll throw you on a Sunday, noon to 3 or whatever. And people still think the DJ picks the music.
Yeah.
People still think that.
Right. And I guess that's good, I guess. But now, the truth is we don't. And you were told, I don't know how you did get through some of those shows. You were told to play the number one song every 15 freaking minutes, literally. And the here's what we were told. We were told there was no, you had to do it. And it was we were told people listen for about 10 minutes max to the radio. So your whole audience is turning over every 10 minutes. Why not play the 4 or 5 biggest songs?
Right.
And that must have been pretty maddening.
Well, but the funny, we were the people on the street, and we were always having to deal with these bosses and bosses and bosses and research and everything. We would hear people on the street, and they'd constantly go, "You guys play the same songs over and over." Yeah. I mean, it became to the point of them saying over and over again, more annoyingly than the same song playing over and over again, was people complaining about the same song being played over and over. But the fact is, the psychology is there. John Dimmick told me Top 40 radio is based on a little girl in a pizza place popping quarters in a jukebox because she loves 4 songs. Yeah. And that's where Top 40 radio, and I love that about that. I mean, Casey Kasem and Dick Clark, they could constantly exist as hosts, that's why we still exist. Because the music changes, but we don't. Right. And the music goes, and sometimes we don't like it personally. Sometimes we love it. I mean, I have time. I'm sure you have time frames in life where you really, really loved going to work because you loved the music you were playing. Right. Or vice versa. Or the music was awful. Right. I couldn't imagine being a DJ now with like 2 Chainz and just stuff like that. And like there'd be certain artists, like I remember. A lot of artists are terrible now. It's bad. Like Phil Collins was played so much on the radio. And I'm not going to, I don't have any particular hatred for Phil Collins. Just I thought I may have to quit this job. I don't think I can play. And he had like a simultaneous solo career and a Genesis career. So, all right, well, there's a ton of stuff I want to move through. Right. So I remember when you worked in radio, you also wanted to do an acting thing. Yeah. I mean, you went to LA, right? Am I right? Briefly. I did not live there. I went out and like couch surfed and tried to make something of it there. I had a company here. You did a TV commercial? I did a lot of TV commercials. Okay. Yeah, I was. I actually the other day I saw one of my commercials that was filmed in the Ohio Wine commercial. I don't know. It's sponsoring something on Channel 10, and it still airs. And that thing was filmed in 2006. No kidding. It's old, and I get no residuals off. I was just saying, nothing. No little check comes. It's just every once in a while I get a little jolly out of seeing myself in 2006 on TV. Yeah. So the other thing, and I referred to this in the open, you were the first person I know who blogged. I think you were the first person I know who blogged. And I found this. I was astounded by this at the time. You were honest and open, and I still am. You are too much. A little too much. You and I guess I want to get into that. I guess I would call it I would say it's a courageous thing. You never minded in these blog posts just sharing when you had a shitty day, or when you were, or you would even call yourself out sometimes. Oh, I call myself out still. Yeah. So where did that come from? Because I remember thinking I could never do that. I even remember your dad. Didn't you? He was like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you?" My dad hates everything that I do. I'm not kidding. He deleted me from Facebook. It took a year for him to re-add me. And this is the funny thing about his verbiage. He goes, "You keep that stuff on your site. Don't you put it on mine." He thinks that Facebook is your own individual website, and that nobody that is on my thing can see anything that's on his. It's comical, but it's also like, I love my dad, but he just doesn't get it. And that the same reason that I support this podcast and I support any adventure that you do is because I've been there. Yeah, that's when your job is eliminated and you have this overwhelming desire to perform, right, and to remain relevant and to do you have to do it in any way possible. Well, I had done that newsletter for the Sunday Night 90s, and I kept that mailing list. The radio station had no claim on that mailing list whatsoever. So I turned that mailing list when I got canned. I turned that mailing list into a blog.
Okay,
and it turned into at one point people were like, take him back, and the radio station was blind to that completely. Yeah, they were not feeling that at all. They had moved on. They had and Matt Ryan was a great night guy. I mean, he was young, he was energetic, he was a lot of things that they wanted at that time. Yeah. And then as time went on, radio kind of moved on to more of what we were actually doing that we got fired for. Yeah. Which was like a night show where we sold the music, but we dropped a lot of songs. Right. When you drop songs, that's kind of a radio term. That means you're talking too much. Right. If you have to drop a song or two, we would be dropping 3 or 4 songs a night. Yeah, well, it was like a show. Every hour. We were doing a show. Fish. I wrote that. I'd start writing it. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd start writing that show as soon as I woke up. And it was like observational comedy. Yeah. If something occurred that day, I'd write it. I'd exaggerate it. I'd do anything I could to make it entertaining for the listeners. And, the product at that time that they wanted was snappy, cool, hot, young night guy. Right. And I was 25 then, and I remember when in the meeting when I got fired, he goes, "You're 25. How long can you be a cool night guy?" Wow. He literally said, I mean, some of the way that all went down, man, it was and yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, when and I don't know if it's like this in all industries, but when they let you go on radio, they're just kind of, see ya.
Yeah, you don't get a last show. You don't get, you don't get anything.
Yeah, I was on the air in Columbus for almost 27 years, and a guy named Jimmy Steele told me that they were eliminating my position. And, I had known him for maybe a month. He was the new PD, and Mark, he said for budget reasons.
That's who fired me.
I didn't know that. No,
who was in town for literally a month.
Oh, is that right?
And fired me within a month. Yeah. He had one meeting. I don't want to turn this into a trash bosses thing, but it was even himself. Years later, went, all right, that was not necessarily the best move I ever
Is that
made.
right?
Yeah, and that was a lot to get out of somebody. Yeah, and this business to even get an I'm sorry or your severance is respectable.
Feel bad. I think they feel bad about it. I don't know. And I don't even know if I care. I guess what I want to go back to is the fact that you were so open and honest in this blog and you do this on Facebook too, where you share your feelings, your real feelings, which I think most people don't do. And I'm not sure how you get the courage to do that sometimes.
A lot of it is I don't have a lot left to lose.
Is that right?
I'm not kidding. I mean, I had cancer 5 years ago. At the same time that I had cancer, I lost my business. At that point, I'm going, every radio DJ's seen Private Parts, Howard Stern, where he had that moment where he went, you either go balls to the wall or you quit. Yeah. And I'm not paid to be, and in a lot of ways, it's arguable that a lot of the things I say hurt me more than help me. Mm-hmm. But it's a really weird, odd respect that people give you when you don't filter yourself. It's a weird respect. It's not necessarily like a, I wish I could do that respect. It's like a, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy.
I would say I always was like, wow. I mean, I always admired it. I guess I always admired it.
Well, but that's the entertainer in you. Yeah. People that don't get entertainment, and especially in written form, it's difficult. A lot of times I'll make a joke and it comes across written one way, completely different than the way I mean it.
I've done that too.
And it's they don't hear the inflection. They don't hear your sarcasm. They don't have your backstory that you're, that's how a lot of people get labeled racists and everything else. I mean, they don't know your life. You get one thing taken out of context and all of a sudden you're just a major label of some sort. I don't know.
All right. So I'm going to fast forward. And how did you end up making the move to Chicago? And what are you doing there?
I moved there to go to, when I got sick, and I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, which my mother had, and it killed her. So the prognosis for me, even though I I didn't doubt for a second I'd be fine. I don't know why. That's
Were
weird.
you like early 30s when
I
you
was
got this
31
diagnosis?
when I got sick. And I did not doubt for a second that I'd be fine. It was just an odd feeling. You get that news. I mean, I avoid a doctor to this day. I should go and get checked up, but like you get that news, and like I think of that moment in Breaking Bad when he got told he had lung cancer, and he just calmly was like, "Oh, lung cancer. Yes, I understand you. I hear you."
Really?
Yeah, I understand you. I hear you. 5 months to live. Okay, all right. And it's this odd calm, and I really related to that because I just really had this because a lot of things would have been eliminated if that would have won.
Yeah.
Like if financial problems would have went away.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I would have never, I would have never had to deal with, this. So it was just like, sweet. Like I get to go out like, kind of a badass.
But you said there was a part of you that was I'm gonna.
Well, no, I didn't believe that it would do it. I didn't, and I was really mad at the time because this guy that I made a DJ like stole all my clients, like literally overnight left me with nothing.
And is this in Chicago?
No, this was here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know I think he does karaoke now or something. I don't think he's even a DJ anymore.
Oh, so like club gigs and stuff
stole,
like that?
I was trying to phase myself out of the DJing and make myself more in the acting and the comedy and all that stuff.
Right.
But I wanted to have income. We never want to have a real job.
Yes.
We never,
True.
That's the core of what drives all of us is we never want to have a real job.
Right.
We want to be paid to entertain people.
Yes.
That's our soul.
Yeah.
That's going nowhere.
Right. I can't even picture myself.
You can't, yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's like...
Really, what would we do?
Yeah. And, I'll say this. My difference, the difference I have between me and you is I have a family that is counting on me to provide for them. So at a certain point, I may have to say to myself, tough, you have to go get a job. But I still am like...
You've still never had to do that. And that's... But you're you've got a lot of tools in your toolbox. You can do guitar at a bar. You can do a lot.
So far, so good.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff you can do.
All right. So you get this diagnosis. Is that part of you moving to Chicago?
No, it was when I beat it, when I moved to Chicago.
Okay. So it was like a fresh start thing?
I just needed to get out of here. I felt disgusted. I had one friend that came to see me during chemotherapy.
Oh, man.
Like I was mad. I was angry. And I had people that supported that DJ that had stolen everything. And these were people that I thought were my friends. And they were like, oh, yeah, we got this guy's back. And the guy, he left me for nothing. He left me for dead, basically. Mm-hmm. And I made him. And, I just got mad. It made me mad. So I had to test the waters. I spent a summer DJing in Cleveland. And then I went, all right, I can DJ somewhere other than Ohio. So I'm moving to Chicago.
Okay.
And then I went there with $500.
Really?
To my name. Went there with $500 to my name and a studio apartment with my friend Nick, who was going there with the intention of getting married and just saving a lot of money. So we shared almost like reverse college. Both of us in our 30s shared a dorm room, more or less. Okay. The first 2 years of Chicago.
Yeah,
my
rent
was $290.
Nice.
And I lived in Lincoln Park, Chicago, which is a nice part of the city.
Right.
And somehow, when I knew that was coming, I looked Craigslist and I looked other places I could live for about as much. I mean, right now I pay $450 in rent, and I live in Lakeview, which is 2 blocks from Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just found ways to continue surviving.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad.
And I moved there to go to Second City, and I went to Second City, and that's the institution that's credited for, Chris Farley, for
improv.
Tina Fey, it's improv, but it's a little bit deceptive in that you're building improv to build sketches. They're really teaching you how to be a writer more so than to be an improviser. Improv Olympic, which is, a mile up the street, is a completely different kind of improv. And they teach you more to just improv for, scenes, funny scenes.
Gotcha. But now, are you still involved in that? Are you doing that? Or
I graduated from both of them, And that was the goal. I wanted to go there and graduate from Second City. I wanted to graduate from Improv Olympic. And then I was like, all right, I'll move on to something else or go home or whatever. And I did both of them. And then when you graduate, you're immediately offered the first opportunity to do their shows that they do on the weekend. But, you're a DJ. What do? You
you work on the weekend.
You get paid $50 to work an improv show on the weekend, or you get paid
$300
to $500 to be a DJ on the weekend.
Yeah.
So that's when your real job kind of screws your dream.
Oh, yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. So, okay. All right. We got to somehow bring this home. I mean, I thought there's so many things I wanted to get to and I didn't get to. You did
clean it up in post.
I guess more than anything, I want to ask you a bunch of things, but I'm gonna pick two. One is, I think most people are tuning in because they know us from the radio, and just
and thank you.
A highlight. Give me a highlight. What did you, what do you look back on most fondly? Do you have something? I mean, you got to meet a lot of people. You got to.
I was never impressed by that. I was never a good interviewer of celebrities. I got to interview Britney Spears, and I didn't. I had a voice. I still have a voice condition that kind of made my career a little bit more difficult. It's behaving today for some reason, and I never know when it's
Jameson.
No, I'm not kidding. Alcohol does make it better, and I did, have a couple of shots here, so not enough to be angry. But when the mics are turned off, we'll keep going. But I love the process. I loved. There was a point on Sundays when I loved that show so much because they gave me complete creative freedom with that show. Everything about that show was me. And when it started getting screwed with, I was ready to leave.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, it was literally because you left the station and I had an opportunity for more money that I stayed.
Yeah.
Sunday Night 90 started getting screwed with in November of 98, and you left.
Yeah, that's right.
In November of 98.
Yeah.
And I remember calling my dad and going, if I leave this radio station and have to move home and do this and this and this and this, am I a failure? And my dad left me a voicemail. To this day, I still have. And he just said, you only lose if you quit.
Cool.
And you only lose if you quit. And just by divine intervention, you walked.
Yeah.
And Dantzer got bumped up, and it took a couple of months. But, I moved into the greatest job I have had and will probably ever have in my life is nights at NCI.
It was a cool place to work.
It was a great, God, it was a great place to work.
Yeah. Doing that afternoon show was I remember, and I sort of knew it, but I really know it now. That was one of the best jobs in the United States of America, I think. When I did afternoons there in the heyday of when people didn't have, pre-internet, pre-satellite, pre-iPods, Yeah.
I remember when I was trying to do that, when I was doing that newsletter, and it was AOL. I sent the newsletter on AOL.
Uh-huh.
And John Dimmick goes, we don't yet know the viability of having a worldwide website, but we are looking into WNCI.com. And we may at one point do something with it. But we do like the newsletter that you're doing, and please send us all of your copy before you send it out so that we can approve it. Because it's you're representing the radio station after all. So
you were always like that. You always were. I feel like the first to do a lot of things, and I'm having a hard time articulating it, and I wanted that to come out a little bit more in our conversation. But I truly salute you. I just think that you were right on the money about a lot of things, and I guess that's all.
Well, thank you. The second that I heard about the station eliminating jobs and that you launching this, I was on board immediately. I'm like, I'll do anything I can, because it's uncharted territory is scary. It's scary as hell.
Yeah.
And I've heard the first couple of shows that you've done, and you got to kind of crawl before you can walk on this whole throwing it all out there thing. Yeah. The whole throwing it all out there thing, you really kind of have to be in somewhat of a bad place, a desperate place, to really truly be organic with it. And the weird thing is everybody kind of wears their face. They wear their face of like, everything's fine, everything's good, everything's okay. But then the second that you show your face, that everything's not fine, that everything's not okay, that everything is tough, that you, as somebody who is possibly looked up to, maybe not, you have vulnerabilities, you have problems, you have things that you want to say, you have things that make you mad. I think more people go, finally.
Yeah.
I don't have somebody that I need to put on a pedestal. I have somebody that I could be just like this with.
Hurrah! Good. That's what I wanted. So let's close there. That's you. Good job. Good job. Drew Hanson, thank you.
Thank you, man.